Hey, this is Andy of Andy's Personal Development. And folks, we are live in the breakout room. We have a very special guest to share with you today on the program. And as you tune in with us, we hope that you remember our three watchwords: health, happiness, and prosperity. Now, about today's guest. He is considered as a goal whisperer, a leadership coach, authentic relating trainer for Rager Psychedelics, and he's also live in the studio with us. So, without further ado, let's introduce our guest for today, Gabe DeRita, live in the breakout room. How are you going today, Gabe? Welcome.
Thanks, Andy. Pleasure to be here. Appreciate you having me on.
It's a pleasure to have you. So, there are so many different assets and facets to your life. It's quite intriguing. And we love your story, hence the reason why we decided that you would be a perfect match. When people hear the name Gabe the Rita, what do you want them to remember the most? What is the biggest legacy that you want for folks to remember when they hear your name?
That's a beautiful question. I think I would want people to feel. Um, I've said this to a friend. I want people to feel like they won the lottery when they meet me. I
Ah,
want them to feel like something really positive and powerful happened to them in their life as a result of us crossing paths.
yeah,
That they had, an experience that was meaningful and playful and deep.
yeah. Sounds good. So here's the thing: what is your true calling in life and how did you discover it? What was that aha moment like for you?
Yeah, I think, my true calling, it's still revealing itself to me a little bit more every day. I don't want to ever feel
Uh-huh.
like I have the final version of that.
Okay.
But I do know that right now it's working with individuals and teams to help them unlock a deeper connection to purpose and meaning that's rooted in understanding their values and their purpose, and
Right.
helping them connect with each other and themselves more effectively, because I feel like when we can do that, when we can really live authentically and aligned with who we are, we have so much more resources to build a better world. And the world's full of pain right now. There's a lot of struggle,
Mm,
and I see my work as contributing at a small individual level to helping people be better for themselves and each other, so they can create a world that we're all excited to live in, and we can be proud of. That people don't feel like they need to defend themselves all the time, that they can be generous. I think that's the world that I want to live in, and that's the world I'm working to create. And I think I had this moment of realizing that I needed to change what I was doing to pursue that path in 2018, when I was working in the tech industry in San Francisco, California, and kind of had the life that I thought I was supposed to want. I was
hmm.
making good money. I had a beautiful apartment. I had a lovely partner, a big group of friends, and
Yeah.
I was really feeling this like deep sense of something missing, but I couldn't detect what it was, because when I looked at
Mhm.
the checklist, on paper, everything seemed to make sense for what I
Yeah.
thought I wanted.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I had to reevaluate, my values, and I had to reevaluate I thought I wanted from my life. And in the process, made a decision to totally change things up. And I quit my job. I sold everything. I left, my community and my relationship, and I traveled solo for about 18 months. I lived mostly by myself, much of that time on a bicycle, traveling around the world and really trying to connect with that part of me that felt like something was missing, and really understand what it was that would bring me that greater sense of meaning.
Yeah. That's deep. Thanks for sharing, Gabe. I feel the passion in your voice. So many people are seeking purpose and alignment, but one of the basic problems that I have personally experienced with many people is that they lack the self belief, the self conviction that things can get better or things can change. And they think it's a huge monumental task that they have to go now and undertake to get that change. What are some of the basic foundational things that you would advise folks that can help them to find a life of purpose and therefore align their goals, their dreams, and their values with that life, and it becomes more fulfilling? What are some of the basic principles that they should observe in the early or incipient stages?
That's a great question. And you're right, a lot of people don't believe that a different way of life is possible. But the problem with belief is it requires evidence. But
Yeah,
if you have faith in a different world, then you don't need evidence. Faith relies on
right,
something deeper, on that place of intuition or that inner knowing,
right.
that trust. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's the place I would invite people to tap into. Like, you don't need the evidence right now. It's it's a risk you're taking. It's an unknown you're stepping into, and you have no idea what comes after that. So you can't know. You're stepping
Yeah,
into the
yeah,
mystery,
yeah.
and I think that's really important to understand that there's no way to feel totally confident that things are going to work out exactly as you planned. I had no idea what was waiting for me on the other side of that unknown,
Mm-hmm.
but I knew that that risk was worth taking, and I think that's an important piece of the process that people understand that that uncertainty and that fear is really the only thing holding you back, and that there's a lot of discomfort involved in leaving behind that certainty and that structure in their lives. That comfort of the known is what keeps a lot of people from exploring those other horizons. But I think that's part of the process, and just knowing that it's part of the process can help reassure folks at the beginning. And another thing that I would invite folks to really question or look at are the parts of your life that feel like they are implanted or kind of pressed upon you by your society or by your traditions or your beliefs. Those are the things we typically think of as values, are the things that are, given to us by our culture, but a lot of times they aren't representative of who we really are. And it might feel like we're being asked to play a role, or that we're being assigned, a piece of the
Mm-hmm.
puzzle that
Yeah,
doesn't really fit. And
yeah.
so getting curious about what are those pieces of your values or your life that you've built up around an idea that isn't something that's authentically yours. I call it climbing the wrong mountain. Um,
Mm.
and sometimes people are much later in their life when they realize this. I've had some clients in their late 50s or 60s that left a career in healthcare or finance to do something totally different, because they
Yeah.
realized a lot of the choices they made to get them to that point in their career were based on things that didn't matter to them. They were things that they did to please their father, or to
Mm.
provide
Yeah,
for
yeah,
this sense of security, whatever it was. So
yeah,
just taking a moment to take stock of that and say, what are the pieces of my life that I'm choosing for me, and what are the pieces of my life that I'm choosing for something else, and
yeah,
is that an aligned choice I want to continue to make?
yeah. Wonderful. I love that explanation. Thanks a lot. So you traveled for about 18 months, Gabe. That's a pretty long time. What are some of the things that you discovered for yourself that you did not know about yourself, you were not aware of, but it was there all along? And what did it mean to you to have those discoveries?
Hmm, another beautiful question. I think one of the things I discovered that surprised me was that I enjoy being alone. I think
Ah.
I'm pretty extroverted. Throughout my life, I've been blessed with a lot of friends, a lot of beautiful relationships, and I really never was like by myself. But I remember this moment. I was in Croatia, like in the middle of
Hmm.
nowhere, setting up camp, and I realized I was like probably about 1,000 miles from anybody who knew my name. And it was like the loneliest I've ever felt. I actually cried in that moment. I wept because I was so moved by how alone I
Mm.
was.
Yeah.
But I think in that process, I developed a sovereignty and a trust in
Hmm.
myself. And
Yeah.
I kind of recentered my energy a little bit, because I think my energy, without me even knowing it, had been kind of centered in other people. And I had, formed my sense of identity through connection, which is beautiful. But I think it also led me to like some codependent patterns or some, uh, kind of negative sort of downsides of being overly attached to different situations for validation or whatever it may be.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think in really giving myself that profound experience of aloneness and self-reliance, where like nobody, like if somebody found me dead on the side of the road, I would just be another, problem for them to
Mm,
deal with. There would be no
yeah.
compassion for me
Yeah.
waiting
Yeah.
in the relationships
Wow.
around me. And so it was just a moment for me to really come home to myself. And I think
Yeah.
it surprised me how powerful that was.
Wow. Yeah. Thanks, Gabe. That's deep. That's deep, man. So I'm interested in something that you discovered, uh, a Japanese philosophy that meant a reason for being. Is it ikigai?
Yeah, I don't take credit for discovering Ikigai, and
Yeah, well, you know
and
what I mean, right? Being able to apply that philosophy somehow to your life after discovering that it actually existed. Yeah.
yeah, and I think there is some misunderstanding about Ikigai.
Uh
In the
huh.
original Japanese cultural understanding of it, that it means in the West, and it was
Ah.
kind of adopted into this Venn diagram in Western thought by actually I think it was a an Argentinian astrologer named Andres. I'm forgetting his last name, but he basically
Yeah.
converted
Yeah.
this original Japanese concept
Uh huh.
into a Venn diagram. And so the Venn diagram you see now is not the original Japanese
Okay.
philosophy, but the Venn diagram version of it really spoke to me. Um, and that Venn diagram is what you love, what the world needs, what you can be paid for, and what you're good at. And
Right.
if you can find something that kind of checks all four of those boxes, you can create a
Hmm.
lot of balance and satisfaction in your life.
Wow.
And I do this kind of inventory with my clients a lot. I talk about like, okay, where are you out of balance? And so for me, like in my sales role, I was very much like good at it and paid for it, but I didn't love it and I didn't really think the world needed it.
Yeah.
And so I was out of alignment with that more heart centered side of things. And through coaching and facilitation work, I can kind of bring those into balance. And so that's where the work I do feels purpose aligned because I know the world needs people who are coming alive and healing and growing. And I love to be a part of that process. And I'm good at it, and I'm still paid for it. So I think it
Hey.
allows me to feel that
Yeah.
balance.
Yeah. That connection. I love it. I love it. Thank you, Gabe. Now, the people that you work with, your clients and so on, is there a pattern that you see that has developed over the period of time that you've been coaching and helping them align themselves? And I say that in terms of, there's some things that are generic and linear when it comes to people having problems, dealing with their lives, dealing with limiting beliefs and stuff. Have you seen a pattern in the people that you work with, your clients, or is there a variety of challenges that they bring to you?
Yeah, I think it's more of a variety
Mm-hmm.
of people's life experiences. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, there's a bit of a paradox here where we're all so different in
Yeah.
our paths through this life, but there's so many primary colors
Yes.
of
Yeah.
human experience that are all the same. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think that's the part that's kind of fun, is to see these primary colors turning into different paintings. And it's like there's just an infinite variety of expressions of some core human needs, some core
Mm-hmm.
wounds, some core desires that show up in every coaching relationship. But I don't think that there's something like, I don't go into a coaching relationship expecting anything to be the same.
Okay. Great. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing. Are there any mentors in your life, Gabe? And maybe I shouldn't use it in the plural term, but singular, because usually there's just one person that we go to, that still voice that's there for us. We know we can call on them, whether it's 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, whatever time it is in the morning. And
Yeah.
they just gonna listen. And the few words that they may say will just help us to sort of align and resonate with what we really want to do. Is that person existent in your life?
Yeah, I do have many teachers that
Okay.
have given me great wisdom over the years, and I'm lucky to have some actual mentors, some living people that I have relationships with. One of my favorite teachers is Alan Watts. He was
Ah,
a philosopher
Okay.
from California who
Right.
really merged Eastern and Western philosophies and translated a lot of Japanese and Chinese texts, philosophical texts, into English. And he did a lot of cool work to kind of bridge these two worldviews. And he's also very playful. He's like, everything's like very kind of like silly and fun to him. And I think that really resonates with the way I try to live. Uh,
Right.
so he's been a great teacher for me. Jim Dethmer is an organizational psychologist that I really like his work, and he's a coach, and he talks a lot about conscious leadership and
Mm-hmm.
kind of the principles of how um, living an aligned life show up in your role and your work. And one of my living mentors is a man named Michael Carroll, and he wrote a
Mm-hmm.
book called Awake at Work. And
Okay.
he is a family friend of my father's and introduced me. My dad introduced me when he found out I wanted to be a coach, and that's Michael's built his career on this. And he also has this kind of rooted in sort of Eastern philosophies and Buddhist teachings, but is very much active in kind of applying that to the Western business world and trying to bridge these two things that don't often mix. It's like spiritual life and business life are often
Yeah.
thought of as very separate, and he merges them
Yeah.
together. And a newer teacher I've recently come to know and had the privilege to know is a man named David Lappin, who founded a group called Lappin
Mm.
International, and he does the same thing. He's bridging ancient, Jewish mysticism and wisdom with modern workplace culture, and really helping people root into a sense of spiritual identity as a tool to be a more effective leader. And so I think you can tell the pattern here is I'm inspired by people who are able to occupy kind of two different worlds or two different
Mm.
ways of being and really
Yeah.
merge those.
Yeah.
Because I think that's a lot of how I see myself, is like I don't really fit into any specific category, and I live in this like liminal space, this space
Uh-huh.
between identities or ideologies, and try to bring the best of both to bear.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you for sharing. I just want to share something with you and get your comments. I have a couple of comments coming from the audience, but before that, let me just share this with you. And if I'm not wrong, I think this has to deal with psychedelics. But I found it to be truly amazing. Here we go, Gabe. Give me a commentary on this.
That has nothing to do. That has nothing to do with psychedelics.
Okay. So there
No,
you go. There you
no.
go. Tell us about this.
That's
Mushrooms,
the
right?
funny thing. Yeah, everybody says, "Oh, I'm really into mushrooms," and everybody's like, "Hmm, yeah, so drugs, right?" I'm like, "No, not at all, man. That's not it. That's
Okay.
not it."
All right. All right.
Mushrooms are so misunderstood. What this is a photo of a mushroom called a porcini mushroom, which is the
Ah.
Italian name for it. The
Uh-huh.
Latin name is Boletus edulis, and it's consumed around the world, and it's considered one of the best edible wild mushrooms on the planet. It has the name porcini because the Italians really love it. And so porcini is the Italian name for it. And my family heritage is Italian American, and I identify deeply with my Italian roots, particularly their love of food. And that was from a trip I made to Oregon, the Oregon coast in 2020, to mushroom hunt with a friend, and it was one of the most successful days foraging porcini I've ever had. I think we got like close to 40
Wow.
pounds, but those are just a
Wow.
gourmet edible mushroom that grow with coastal pines on the west coast of the United States. And they're delicious
Wow.
dried or fresh. They have a texture like scallops and a flavor you wouldn't believe.
Man, that sounds like something to try out.
It's cool.
I would never have known if we hadn't been on this episode on this podcast. It is
Yeah.
amazing. Thank you for sharing, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So, Gabe,
Can I
yeah,
say one more thing about the mushrooms
sure,
for the
sure. Go
audience?
ahead.
Do you know what umami is?
Oh, I heard that before, but it's like a distant.
It's
No,
like
no,
it's
no.
like the fifth flavor. We have sweet, sour, spicy, salty, and umami. And umami's like that. It's almost like that mouth feel, like when your mouth is coated in
Ah,
flavor, like when you eat a really good meat, or like you have a good barbecue, and
yeah,
it's like
yeah,
your
yeah,
whole mouth is full of flavor.
yeah.
Those mushrooms have one of the highest concentrations of glutamate in nature, and glutamate
Oh,
is the
okay.
molecule that's responsible for the umami flavor. So
Right.
those mushrooms have a really strong umami flavor, and that's also a Japanese word
Wow.
that just refers to this flavor sensation of like coating your mouth with goodness, basically. Really savory and fulfilling. So just wanted to end with that.
Yeah.
If
You
anybody's curious, go
you
find some
you
pochini because you'll enjoy it.
you did well in promoting that. You made it really sound like something we need to go and have the
You're good,
experience
man.
with. Thank you for sharing. We appreciate that. Something to learn every day. That's what it's all about. So
Yeah.
I have this video that I want to show or share with us, and it's about 5.5 minutes. But I wouldn't play it that long. I probably play it about 2 minutes because I think what I want to get out from you is basically in the first 2 minutes. So here we go. You're gonna comment after.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Happy Friday and happy 2020. I hope everybody's year's off to an amazing start so far. And I had a thought about kind of adding to the New Year's resolution discussion that everybody's talking about right now. I posted on my page, I think yesterday, about setting a New Year's intention versus a New Year's resolution. And today I wanted to talk quickly about setting rituals instead of results as the focus of a resolution or a goal that you're setting for yourself. And this is a really interesting reframe for me that I was introduced to by Jay Shetty. I love his work. You should check him out. And basically, what he says with this is that when we focus on a result or a goal, it can often seem like really far away and distant and unattainable, and it's difficult to maintain momentum when we're striving towards a goal. But if in the process of creating goals for ourselves, we actually focus on the rituals and the steps that will help us achieve that goal, the process builds momentum as we go, and we celebrate success at each step of the way, and we learn from our process instead of feeling like we're just kind of striving and driving towards this distant horizon. And I really, really love this reframe because you get to celebrate at each step of achieving your goal instead of having it be only celebrated when the goal is attained or having a sense of failure if it's not. If you focus on the ritual and the steps and making each part of achieving your goal actually as much of a success as the goal itself, then along the way you get to learn from each stage and celebrate and incorporate as you grow. And so an example of this would be like if your goal is to lose 10 pounds, right, by February. Let's say you're getting married or something like that. And you want to lose 10 pounds by February. That's your goal. And if you're only focusing on that as the thing you'll celebrate when you get, you're only going to get to celebrate it if you hit that months from now. But if you reframe that to say, actually, I'm going to make my goal the ritual of attending the gym every day, or I'm going to make my goal the ritual of eating something green at every meal, whatever it's going to be that ultimately will serve that end goal, make your goal ritualizing and celebrating the process itself. So then you get to celebrate every day when you said, I made it to the gym today. Or if you didn't make it to the gym today, you can say, well, I'm going to have to go tomorrow. I can't miss twice. Or, so every single day, your process becomes what you celebrate and becomes the goal itself. The goal becomes to build this process, strengthen these habits, create something real and something powerful for yourself in the process of moving you towards a goal. And so you get.
Yeah. So really powerful. I wrote down some stuff: results, resolutions, rituals, momentum, and celebrate each step. I want you to elaborate on what you just said, what we just heard, and what I wrote down, because, Gabe, it is so powerful that people don't understand that you have to incrementally and intentionally focus on the goal and do it step by step. My personal mantra is 1% each day.
Mhm.
It's so unusual that I feel like we kind of align with this, but what is the main message you're trying to tell people there?
Yeah, that's so funny seeing that video. The first thing I thought of is, "Where's that gold vest? I missed that thing." I haven't seen that in years. But, yeah, the core message there is really, I think, matured over time for me. That I recorded that video probably 4 years ago,
Okay.
3 or 4 years ago, and I think what it's become now is a very simple practice I call savoring.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same basic principle that
Yeah.
what you want to learn to celebrate and live into is savoring those small steps,
Yeah.
savoring that trip to the gym, or savoring, like, the healthy meal, savoring the moment of stillness, that you have
Mm-hmm.
with your morning cup of coffee or tea.
Yeah.
Because if you're in that discipline of presence, it makes the practice easier.
Ah.
It makes the development of those habits easier because you're taking something enjoyable or delightful from every moment of your life instead of just saving the victory lap for those big wins and those distant
Mm-hmm.
horizons. It's the
Mm-hmm.
same principle, and it produces the same result. But I think it's even more powerful because it's much clearer and simpler. Just savor the choices you're making and the things you're doing
Right.
that are aligned with where you want to go, and you get
Right.
that sense of satisfaction and that dopamine. And there is actually some research on our brain chemistry that says that
Mm-hmm.
our brain learns better in the presence of dopamine, in these good chemicals, right? These positive emotions. Our brain is marking that as saying, this is something that's important for us. We want more of it. And so if you're turning your daily ritual of savoring into, hey, I really enjoy the self satisfaction I feel when I choose to get on the rowing machine instead of just eat
Mm-hmm.
cookies for lunch, or I'm really proud of, like, not spending 2 hours on Instagram today. And like, instead I read a book. Like, if you savor the success of those small choices, that's what ultimately compounds into greater transformation. Um, there's a quote from Aristotle. It's like, I think Aristotle said it, or maybe it's misattributed to him, but he
Okay.
says, "We are what we repeatedly do," and
Mm-hmm.
so excellence is a choice and a habit, right? It's not. It's an outcome of a process of continually choosing over and over and over again in small ways to do things that matter to us, because we only see the big results on the like on the social media feeds, or
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
you're on the TED stage, right? That's what everybody sees. But those moments are the result of disciplined, committed, day by
Yeah.
day process. And
Yep.
building that discipline is easier when we're enjoying it.
That's right. Yeah. I love it. Thank you for sharing, Gabe. Are there any individuals that you are currently mentoring? I know you spoke of several teachers for you aligning that holistic aspect of your life. But in terms of seeing the future through someone, maybe younger persons, normally we would look for persons who would be involved in some level of continuation because you'd want your work to go on, I'm sure, and even after you're not here, continue to make wonderful and great impacts on people's lives. Are there any individual or groups that you're currently mentoring that you see some level of potential in and you realize, hey, I could work with this guy, I could work with these people, and whatever I'm doing now, I know that possibility exists that through them it can continue long into the future.
Wow, I kind of feel like that's a question for, a 65 or 70-year-old. I'm glad I project the image of an old man sage, but I don't think
Ah,
I'm quite there yet.
okay.
And yeah, and unfortunately, I can't share any of the information about the individuals I'm working with because I have agreements
Of
of
course.
confidentiality with my
Definitely. We
clients.
know we know that. We
But
know that.
but I do like to work with people who feel like they're in a period of transition in their lives. People who are at an
Mhm.
inflection point. Kind
Yeah.
of people who find themselves where I was in 2018, of like having this sense that something's missing. I now call it spiritual inflammation, where you're having
Oh.
like an allergic reaction to your daily life.
Hmm.
Those are the people that I'm really most excited to support because I have such a personal relationship with that journey. And several of the people that I'm working with are transitioning to work in the coaching world. And so I do support and train coaches occasionally in my work because I think people need more of this type of support. And I think that life coaching in general is kind of at a stage now where, at least in the United States, something like yoga was in the 1990s, where like
Mm.
yoga was like kind of new, people liked it, but it wasn't like common language
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah.
I think the coaching industry is still really young, it's still really new. It only started in the 1990s, and so it
That's
still has
right.
a lot more cultural understanding to
Yeah.
develop. A
Yeah.
lot of people think life coaches are just like influencers who live in Bali and just like talk about how great their life is and don't you want to
Yeah.
be me? And that's not it
Mm,
at all. So I
true.
do work with a number of coaches who are trying to build intentional careers rooted in service to others.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing, Gabe. As you work with your clients and stuff and you present them with all the different avenues where they can find true purpose and align themselves, how important is the use of AI in terms of what you share and how you get your message out there? I ask that because I've had some people on and they're concerned about the influence of AI. My firm belief is that it's here to stay rather, and we should find a way to incorporate it. But not everybody thinks that way, and sometimes you end up playing up what I call the catch up game. I don't think we should be playing catch up. I think we should try and stay with what is happening, stay current, stay up to date as much as we possibly can. But from your perspective, Gabe, in terms of the use of AI, is it effective for you? Is it something that you appreciate as a tool? Is it something that's incorporated in what you do with your clients?
I don't really use it on the client facing side, but I use it on the business development side. So for me, AI is basically a research assistant. So I'll be like, tell me which conferences on personal development are happening in North America this year, or,
Ah,
help me research companies that are similar to X or Y organization that I'm interested in. So I use it as a data gathering tool and a compiling tool. I
mhm.
don't really use it in my writing or in my development of any programs or anything like that. I think it's pretty easy to tell when somebody has used Chat GPT to build a landing page or to write an email or something. There's just, it's
It
still,
shows.
it's still,
Yeah,
I can
yeah,
still hear
yeah,
it, and it might develop past that point pretty quickly, but at where it's at now, I don't think it takes the place of like a heartfelt newsletter speaking from your personal experience about something that's
yeah.
meaningful to you. And, it has mastery of vocabulary, but it doesn't have mastery of like sensation and experience yet.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I think there are coaching processes that AI is already capable of doing, but I think there are others that it's not. And so, if you want a coach to just support you in like recommending, you know, methods to organize your time more effectively, if you just want a list of books or podcasts to listen to on a particular topic, like again, AI is a great data compiler, and an idea generation tool. You might ask it to like draft a few versions of a title for a program or an email, but ultimately, I think that it doesn't have the creative power that human experience does. And I think in something as deep as purpose alignment work or values alignment work, you could use AI to generate a map, but having like a human being with you to travel that territory is still an experience that AI can't replicate. And so some of the coaching programs that I'm a part of that just do like uh, coaching at scale inside of organizations for like hundreds of executives, like LinkedIn or Airbnb will hire like a coaching firm to coach, 900 team
Mhm.
members.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, some of those businesses I think are being impacted by AI because they're like, couldn't we just use a language model, like a conversation model, and make it a Tony Robbins bot and like have it talk to our team? And like you can do that.
Yes,
And
yes,
I
you
think for
can, you
some
can.
people who
Yeah,
really just want like goal management or organization or productivity focused coaching, it could be effective. But I think for some of those deeper emotional layers or like spiritual development or kind of understanding with human contact the nature of somebody's experience to help call elements forward in their spirit, in their human soul that are essential to their thriving in the world. That's a deeply human process that you're talking about a non-human entity that's doing it. And I think AI will become a bigger part of our world in the future. But I think right now it's hype. Right now, like a lot of the things that are being discussed about AI's capability are hypothetical because like ChatGPT is not, the same as a human who's connecting with you empathetically and generating that emotional response and
yeah,
safety of connection. It's
yeah,
great for practical stuff, like research or generating ideas, but I don't think it's quite reached the level yet that it's being promoted at.
yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Gabe. Appreciate your take on AI. So we're gonna go for a quick commercial break for about 27 seconds or so, and we will be right back with Gabe DeRita on the breakout room, the episode How I Found a Life of Purpose with Gabriel DeRita. Stand by. FindRadioGuest.com, the place to click to find guests to interview for free. And if you're a radio show booker, podcaster, talk show host, or television producer, then this is the place to get podcasts and radio interviews or promote your books and products as a guest expert sponsor. FindRadioGuest.com. Check it out. So we are back. So, Gabe, I just want to throw out about 3 questions to you. I normally do this coming down to the end of the program, and it has maybe 2, 3, or 4 options in the questions. You choose one, and then you tell us why you made the choice, or maybe none of your choices would fall into the options, and then you just tell us, well, what would you prefer? Okay, so question number 1, would it be ham and cheese or peanut butter and jelly? Whoa, you went to school there, bro.
Yeah, it's tougher than I thought. I
Wow.
think I'm gonna go ham and cheese right now.
Okay. And why?
Um,
Why ham and cheese?
I chose ham and cheese because I'm letting myself be a little bit more indulgent lately. I was a
Ah,
vegetarian for like 5 years, and I'm like coming back around to incorporating meat in my diet, and I'm thinking of like I'm a little homesick today, so I'm thinking of like sopressata or some good Italian ham and like a slab of like really good aged cheddar or Gruyere on there and melting it in my toaster oven. And then I'm comparing
ah,
that to like spreading some fruit sugar on a piece of bread and adding peanut butter juice to it. I'm like, eh.
wow. Okay, great, great. So this is sporting wise. We have the NFL, the NBA, we have Sunday evening baseball, and we also have, let me see if I left on it, NFL National Football League, National Hockey League, baseball. What else? What is your sporting drive? Is there any?
My sport is cycling. I really like cycling.
I
So
saw that, but
yeah,
sometimes, yeah, 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 yeah.
yeah,
So,
and
what's happening? Go ahead.
I'm an obligatory Eagles fan because I grew up in Philadelphia, and my family wouldn't really welcome me home for the holidays if I wasn't bleeding green a little bit. But yeah, I lose patience with football quickly because of the commercial breaks. It's like it's not good for my attention span.
Oh,
The thing
oh,
I like
okay.
about cycling is that it requires like a sustained focus. It's about
Yeah,
like staying in the groove and creating a pace over miles and miles. It's kind of boring
right.
to watch on TV, but it's really really fun to go out and ride with a group of people and really test yourself. And I also like that it's about you're really against yourself, right? You're not like against another team. You're just testing your own individual strength and
Mm,
ability in a way.
yeah. Wow. Yeah. So, final question. I know we spoke about AI and stuff. What is your preferred powerful online service? Is it Apple or Microsoft?
I use Apple. I'm a Mac guy, but
Mm,
technology is just a tool. I'm
yeah.
not attached to it. Like if you gave me a good reason to use something else, I would. And to be honest with you about the AI thing, like I'm not using it that much either, right? I'm really
Yeah.
focused on in building in-person experiences and community, and that's kind of where I live most of my life is in
Uh-huh.
relationship with human beings and in relationship with systems, and that doesn't always happen online. It did
All
a
right.
lot during the pandemic, but less so now.
Yeah. Okay, great. So I just have about 2 more questions before we give you a chance to share your information with folks, how they can make contact with you for your services and so on. The first question is, if you had a megaphone and you could speak to almost 8 billion people in the world, and it's just that one chance you have, so it's something that you want them to remember and never forget, what is the message you would send to them, Gabe? What would you say?
I would want to say that gratitude changes everything.
Interesting.
Find something to be grateful for right
Yeah.
now in every moment of your day. And that melts away so much of the sense of lack and fear that
Yeah.
we face.
Wow. Interesting. And the other question is, if there's anything you would like not to have to deal with in the world today that you find should not exist, we shouldn't have to deal with it. It should not be there as something we have to confront or challenge, however we choose to deal with it. What would that one thing be?
Are you talking about like within ourselves or within society?
Within society as a whole, something that everybody at one point in time has to grapple or deal with one way or the other.
That everybody has to grapple or deal with.
Yeah.
Hmm. I think it'd be nice if we weren't still having a conversation about the need to address climate change. I think we're all
Ah,
going to have to address that at some point. I think it'd be nice if we were all just in alignment on our collective responsibility for creating a livable future on this planet for our children. That would be nice. I also think it would be nice if we collectively, especially in the West, and I know a lot
mhm.
of listeners all over the world might say, well, we have this, and you're really lucky if you do. But in the United States, I don't think we have a clear sense of like elders, wisdom
Mm,
leaders in our society that have clear
yeah.
traditions that young people can like have this relationship with and have a strong sense of coming of age or entering into a responsible relationship with the social fabric in our world. I think like that path to maturity, it exists in some wisdom traditions and religious traditions, but in a big like secular society like the United States, it's very fragmented. And I think it'd be nice if we had that sense of like wisdom and guidance and eldership in our culture.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing, Gabe. We appreciate it. So now I just want to give you the opportunity to tell folks how they can reach out to you. I'm just going to give you a little bit of help, but let them hear from you. What is the most effective way in which they can reach out to you? They need your services, the things that you do to help people align their purposes and stuff. Go ahead.
You got my Twitter link in there. I haven't used that since like 2013.
Wow. Wow.
No, but I think the best way to reach me is on my website,
Hmm.
effectiveconnection.com. I also do use LinkedIn more and more these days.
Yeah.
So that's a great place to have a conversation with me, linkedin.com/Gabriel DeRita. And I do love Instagram. I use it less now. I
Uh-huh.
think the Reels feature is terrible. I don't like that I can't see the people that I came to the platform to interact with as easily.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
do still use it. I especially like sharing stuff about mushrooms and foraging and travel. It's a great place to just share information and sort of conversation. And I'm on Instagram at fungabe, FUNNGABE. And everything that I share on Instagram also ends up on my Facebook. So if you find me on Facebook, it's at Gabe DeRita. Any of those places you can reach me, but my website has a button on it where you can book time to chat with me about anything. I really just love meeting people and having conversations, and there's no strings attached to just connecting and having a phone call. So there's a button on my website that lets you do that at effectiveconnection.com.
Hey, thank you for sharing, Gabe. So there you have it, folks. The man in the house, Gabe the Reader, as he shared with us his information, his experiences, what he does, his philosophy for life. He's a goal whisperer, leadership coach, authentic relating trainer for Rager, and a man who deals with psychedelics. So until next time, this is Andy of Andy's Personal Development, reminding you guys to remember the three watchwords: health, happiness, and prosperity. Until next time, we are saying to you, so long, Godspeed, God bless. Bye for now. Shalom. Namaste. Take care, people. And remember, grow every day, 1% at a time. Stay cool, stay blessed. Bye for now.
Thanks, Andy. Thanks, everyone, for listening.
Very good. No problem.